When your catchphrase is going dark, we certainly hope that doesn't mean in the server. Darkzero are slowly working themselves back to life, but so far have just 1 point to their name after a great World Championship finish. Their opponents today, a virtually unknown Los team that's only played 1 match in the NAL so far that just might be the kryptonite to one of the best teams in North America. Welcome back to the NAL. I'm Jacob, he's Jay as Wills, he is Foxay. This is an interesting one because we need to see more Los. Obviously, there's only been 1 game under their belt, and it was last week. They've had a lot of time to prep since then. But the mystery surrounding the way Darkzero has been playing also needs its own level of unpack.
Yeah, we gotta break this down from a couple of different perspectives. From the Los perspective, and I suppose maybe the DZ side as well, we're looking at a clash of styles here, a little regional battle. We're seeing the fast, aggressive Brazilian style meet not only this NA style, but one of the slower, most methodical, most patient NA styles there is.
And we saw a lot of new elements from Darkzero too, especially coming from Invite since getting on Nafe. We see a lot of even slower playstyles, like a European playstyle.
Is it even possible to get slower?
It can get possible. The way that I would describe Darkzero is it's like a pentagon, and if 1 point falls, it's so much harder for them to succeed. But if they can keep everything getting into place, and once they're set up, the round's already lost at that point.
So Darkzero needs a little more dissecting right now. They had a really bad start to the stage, had a game that went to overtime yesterday, so maybe there's a slight upward trend for this DZ team, but let's dive a little bit more into them before we get to the relative unknown that is Los. They lost against Space Station 6-8 on Cafe yesterday, which was an absolute heartbreaker despite keeping things close. If they planted, they were able to get those rounds, but if they couldn't plant and play the objective, it felt like it was infinitely harder yesterday.
It was, and it comes back down to that Pentagon playstyle. Everything is set up for these executes, for these late rounds. They are a team that primarily relies a lot on information. They have the players, they have the strategy. Currently, it just feels like they just don't have the information to back everything. They're getting outgunned in one of these 5 areas, and once that part falls, everything is just not collapsing together.
But it stands to reason that if they lose the first game and then they have a relatively normal one yesterday, like what's today gonna bring?
Yeah, DZ, the path they've taken to get here is a little bit confusing. They struggled against the Sonics. That much is clear. Even they themselves owned up to it. We saw the tweet from Nafe. They said, "We are not playing like ourselves." Come back to yesterday, I think we can all definitively say that they were playing like themselves. Maybe a bit too much like the DZ of old. It was really slow. Like you mentioned, that information style, setting up, waiting until everything is just right before eventually going for that execute. We need to see them today take it just 1 step further. Return to that SI form where they showed us that yes, they can be methodical while also taking advantage of those smaller gaps. Just maybe that willingness to push into the site a little quicker, and I'm not going to say fly by the seat of their pants, but just improvise a little more.
Having that sort of improvisation is great for teams that rise to the top. There was a player that was in SI form yesterday in that Cafe game. He just dropped 17 kills and wasn't able to get the dub. That was Bolo yesterday.
And Bolo, I think the suspicion has been confirmed here, Jacob, that maybe he should have never retired in the first place. This guy still has it. He has not lost a single step, and right now he is the top performer on this team. Has it been enough to put them over the edge and get them wins? It has not, but it's a good sign for this team that what they're hoping for in this structure is there.
When we talk about one of them getting outgunned, it has not been Bolo recently. He's been shaking off the rust, and he's been the new pinpoint player for Darkzero. At Invite, we saw a lot of Nafe, we saw a lot of NJR, and when some players go quiet, others show up, and Bolo's been showing up. That does scare me a little bit to what's been going on since Invite to now when it comes to the strategy of Darkzero. How come the supports aren't showing up as comfortably as they were back then?
Here's the problem. Darkzero hates the unknown. Darkzero loves it when everything goes according to plan. We don't really know how easy it is to plan against a team that has played 1 game so far, and that's Los. A roster that played Oxygen last week. They have had a week to recuperate from that loss. The only things they were able to win was Basement on Oregon. We figured that out. We're bringing that storyline back. They are the masters of one site, but today they're hoping to add a little bit more to their own storyline.
And if you didn't tune in last week, you're probably like, wait, who are these guys? I haven't seen Bursa, Farius, Legacy, Rise before.
Who?
You've definitely heard of Sexy Cake, though. That much I can confirm if you've been watching any amount of competitive Siege over the last few years. The question is, like you said, Jacob, kind of like Beast Coast yesterday, we don't know what to expect here. They're a little bit of an unproven entity, and for Los, still kind of laying the groundwork for the stage ahead.
The groundwork is being laid by Farius and Legacy, the two new rookies, and I'm glad you mentioned how difficult it is to practice against players that you not only have no footage on, but have no historical footage on them at all.
Yeah.
It's that much harder, and they've also been playing an immense amount of Siege, specifically Legacy, because he has been a key hold. They've only played one game against OXG, but he was a key pinpoint player that get into those openings on Oregon, which was the map they played on OXG. They did the hard part first. They were able to win Oregon basement attacks. They won 2 out of 3 against OXG. Legacy each time was able to enter into the site, cause some pain for OXG, and open up these fast, aggressive playstyles. And that only happens because you have these new rookie entries that have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose. They have the players behind them saying, go for it. We need you guys to do it, because if you're not going to do it, who else will?
I mean, it feels like there's no pressure on the whole team. Like, rookies be damned. The whole squad came in here being like, if we can make some noise, great. If we don't, no skin off our backs. We're in the league now, so we can kind of do whatever we want. How do you fight against a team like Los? OXG figured out some of the formula, but now we go to Clubhouse. They take defense first. What do we think of the pick?
Well, first of all, even before we get into the specifics of what Clubhouse has to offer, Los, we don't know much about what this team has to offer.
We're going to keep saying that until they actually have more
footage. We got to see them today, and then we'll be able to make up our mind. But one thing that we know was an issue on the last map and could translate regardless of the playing field they go to next, simple mistakes. We saw a couple, maybe too many of those mistakes emerging in their first matchup. The diffuser left behind. We saw some reinforcements left in pocket. There was one especially troubling round. Got to fix those issues on Clubhouse too.
If I'm Los, I'd be a little comfortable, though, because hitting Basement Oregon is really difficult. If you're hitting Basement Clubhouse or CCTV on Clubhouse, I think that's pretty difficult as well. So that makes you feel a little comfortable. They can do the hard part first. But going against Darkzero, they never make the same mistake twice. They've obviously played this map, and it didn't go so much in their favor. And NJR was a big player that we didn't see show up that game, and I guarantee you he's not going to make the same mistake twice. Hopefully I don't jinx him, though.
But is that mystery factor for Los enough to have you pick against Darkzero in this game? Fox, who do you take?
I'm going to go with the consistency. I'm going to go with Darkzero. Los still has a lot to prove. They still have a lot to prove.
What does Laxing think?
Laxing says he's sticking with DZ, but he prefaced he might swap for the next one, so keep that in mind. He's sticking with DZ now, though. He's sticking with DZ now.
Okay, fine. So everybody, again, crossed the board, stuck with the same team. That's fine. It happened in the M80 game, and it didn't go according to plan. So Fox is still in the lead for right now. Jesse and Laxing are both still in a hole about 10% behind him.
But they're tied.
Which means the race is literally as tight as it's ever been. And just as a reminder, they're fighting for this bad boy right here, the North American League Predictions Championship. It's time for Game 3 of Day 4, and I have no idea whether Los knows what they're doing, and neither does Darkzero. It's Stokes and Lynx with the call.
I'll tell you this, okay? I'll say this, okay? I'm excited to see what Los can do. I want to see how this new roster, just developing, they got to get visas, immigrate, do all this stuff within like 18 days in between SI and NA, Sam. It's a tough go. But, and I don't want to sound biased, but if a team of Brazilians come to NA and make us look silly, I'm gonna feel a little bad for our region if that happens. I'm gonna feel pretty bad about our region if that ends up happening.
Yeah, most definitely the case. Fortunately enough for us, it hasn't been the greatest start for them, but they also just had a day off to kind of retool things, kind of maybe sit back, watch the NAL a bit, be like, all right, exactly what do we have to deal with inside of North America? So who else to try and take it to past Darkzero, who are chomping at the bit to get their very first victory here to start the stage?
Which is a bit of a curious position, you'd think, for DZ to find themselves in. I mean, they have consistently been fighting for first, second, or third place in NA. And to be fair, with only 2 games played so far for Darkzero, I still believe they will be there by the end of the stage, let alone the overall stage. By the end of the round robin, I think they'll be back because Sam, they played SSG, who are basically almost first place in the league and have had some really good victories. And then who else did they lose to? Oh yeah, Sonics. Literally two of the best teams in North America. Some of the best teams in the world, even in the case of SQ. DZ are now getting to a point in their schedule where they can start not necessarily relaxing, but this is a game they should absolutely win. And without seeing them play, I have to assume will be a bit easier than the SQ one.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be one that they want marked down as a W at the end of the day. Because for Darkzero, it goes from Los today to next Thursday. It's them against M80, who will definitely be wanting to try and get back into the good graces of victory. Excuse me, after what we saw earlier today.
Can you believe that Darkzero banned Dokkaebi and Azami?
I am shocked, let me tell you. Not to be outdone by the Ying ban.
I will say, I don't have like literally the exact number, but next time Darkzero play, I'm saying this on stream so I'm held accountable. I want to find the exact number of ban phases that have been exactly Dokkaebi and Azami. Because I know for basically all of SI it was, and it has been this way for months now, but I just want to have a number to make it this obvious how much Darkzero hates these two operators. Which, to be fair, Sam, I mean, Dokkaebi is literally one of the best attackers in the game, and Azami is one of the best operators on defense. It's not unfounded hatred, but it's almost comical, the extent. I mean, we literally saw Ashen making fun of it. Like, it's a meme at this point how much Darkzero hates these operators.
Yeah, and like you said, you really can't exactly, go against that grain either, as Darkzero are taking off really two hot to trot operators. So just something that they don't exactly like in the current meta, and I can't blame them. Even post Azami nerf, she's still fantastic, especially when it comes to, sites like Master and holding things over inside of Cache, or just being able to clog up some angles or some, holes or gaps that were exploitable before from the offense. But I digress. We're into round one now. We won't have to worry about those operators. Ying and Kaid also off the board when it comes to Los's bans. And speaking of Los, gonna head downstairs for our very first defense.
Nobody's shocked by this, though we did start off Skyscraper with Master Bedroom, so maybe a bar and stage defense to start out isn't entirely unlikely, but no, it will be Church and Arsenal, as you pointed out. What are DZ going to do? Insert cliche, they're slow. Insert cliche, they love full clears. Insert all the things we have to mention when we talk about Darkzero. And I don't think it's a shock at all that a huge focus for them early on is this vertical control. But I love this from DZ because they recognize it. They're conscious, they're self-aware. That's why the main source of soft destruction they have for this clear is the ramp. Bolo has thrown 2 boogie drones into kitchen and the kitchen hallway, and bam. A lot of your soft destruction already done, and the best part, you don't avail yourself to C4s or impact grenades or even shots from below. It's a very safe method of vertical destruction, but also accomplishes a key part of a Church Arsenal full clear. We're only a minute 10 seconds in.
Yeah, something that we usually are at the necks of Darkzero for, their timing, right? They take a long time to be able to clear things out and try and work their way towards the site, trying to deal with some of the external pressure that could be coming off of that. But this time around, that's not the case. Darkzero are chomping right down on the site, trying to see if they can cut off a few of these, highly trafficked avenues from Los, making it to where their traversal across the site isn't going to be as easy as it once was.
How are they going to react? Darkzero have spotted some key utility that could completely demolish a flood down blue or into the site in general. These F-Knots from Bursus Fenrir, the deployable shield as well that Legacy's playing behind. 2 things that if somebody like Pamazoo, for example, wants to take control down blue, will be a huge issue. Some have been cleared. The presence is still there from Los. The Wamai still behind Gen. The Warden still playing AKs, even without the deployable shield. The Bees go out, they force the Wamai off of his position, and he's waiting for the oil pit drop, seeking maybe somebody that's getting aggressive, and Bolo on red, but Panbo with a very quick trade. There's still that Warden who's able to fight back, and then while the blue push is shut down, so it might be the round for Darkzero. Nathan NGR bottom main, but their position is known. Rai still gives it up. So we're able to bring it back to a 2v2. Fuser inside of the side at the moment. Nave struggling to make his way in, despite it being generally open. He'll eventually vault over. It's on NJR for the coverage from the Moto doorway. He's got the blue angle, but the double door a bit isolated right now. He's pre-fired around the corner, eviscerated by Legacy, but Nafe is still able to move it to the post plant without anybody to rely on. He'll hold the church hallway for the moment, rotate around blue. Los have smartly gone for the res, recognizing they have the time. A 3K for Legacy, one of the highlight players from the desk, having a huge debut in round 1.
Very well done from Los to handle that inside of the post plant. Not getting overly aggressive, not giving Nafe the opportunity to pull that round back into the good graces of Darkzero. And they're going to be left in the dark on this one, not only from Nafe's perspective here inside the kitchen, but the round as a whole. I think they did a really good job of being able to set up for things and such good timing, especially with those boogie drones getting used to their fullest capabilities, but Los being able to play it close to the chest, being able to fend off a lot of these Darkzero angles, and not only that, but keep the man advantage in their favor. Use that to its fullest advantage. Los with a very solid defense on the basement level. Now they're going to send it sky high over towards gym and master bedroom.
Eager to see what DZ do here. I mean, even though they ended up losing that round, how they were able to set themselves up so well to start by accomplishing a key part of the church arsenal clear in relatively little time. If they're able to keep that a consistent theme, they'll be able to keep fighting very heavily on these attacks, even if they end up losing them. Just being able to expedite a lot of that work you need to do early on is something you can't make up for. Even if you end up losing a round, it's not something you want to change. Here, if we can see Jacuzzi Wall and maybe Plat Wall as well open within the first minute, it'd be a similar story. What? We got the coconut bra angle, don't we? Yep, look at this. Or is he just on the weight rack? Did they open a hole in garage? No, he's just peeking outside. Okay, I thought, because you can get a similar angle where you open up the garage wall and look through the garage door.
I see. Still a little coconut bra-esque getting up on that
definitely,
weight rack right there. That's, either way, not going to be able to hit his mark. Darkzero, now looking to readdress things here in round 2. So far, this stage has kind of been a one-man show for Darkzero. Solo's topping out the party at a 1.18, but then it's a steep drop-off, folks. Nave is going to follow that up just in the second slot. I don't want to get it twisted here. I want you to follow along with me. Nave, second slot for Darkzero, 0.97. That's what I mean by steep drop-off. Everybody behind that, Pambazoo 0.86, Nadian 0.79, and NJR finally a 0.71. All of them past Bo, a negative KD spread as well, and all of them except Canadian and NJR negative when it comes to entry game as well. Bo's actually even at a 4 and 4, but moral of the story is this: it's been a lot of Bo, a lot of that frontal assault from him getting quite a bit done for Darkzero, but just not really all coming back to bear for DZ in the proper way just yet. So we're looking to see if they can address here today. Canadian going to be reaching deeper inside of that strategical bag of his, as he is a jack of all trades when it comes to the op choices. He's going to try and mount the Monty here, but Sexy Cake and, oh my God, the rest of Los as well will take down some DZ members for themselves, including Bolo.
That's just, we're seeing some ridiculous shots hit, and we're only in round 2.
Way.
Canadian unextends the shield, put to 1 HP. One more player falls. This clear might be over for Darkzero. And now Legacy knows there's a gun behind that Monty shield. NJR has made his way in server off the flank into the action. Still 2 players. Closer are both aware of the attack, and the attackers are aware of them. They can play their life here, hold out. He doesn't get a single kill. Instead, it's Sexy Cake on the other angle to take down NJR and server. Retake a position that stabs the Monty in the back, and same for Panbazoo. A 3K for the legendary former Liquid player. 2 rounds in a row for Los. What the hell is going on?
That's something else right there. And Sexy Cake, more than making his presence known, he will take it to this star-studded Darkzero lineup. A 4K for him over on the cash side, and Darkzero can't even process that portion of the building, let alone try and make any headway towards the actual site. Los with some very serious kills early on into that round, Carter, that ended up setting the tone, setting the pace, making it to where Darkzero are sent reeling. They have to try and find an adjustment that can potentially help them with that top red position. But not even Canadian trying to slide that shield back and forth can really do all that much for them. They tag up Canadian. They finally get something going for themselves once Pamba is able to work his way up the red stairs, but they actually don't even have that area inside of their range just yet. Sexy Cake is still inside of the territory and expressing himself violently across all of Darkzero. So he'll pick up that quad and the round.
And if you haven't been paying attention to maybe Brazil stage 2 and you're like, whoa, first of all, Sexy Cake's back in T1. Second of all, why is he in NA? Well, the second question is just like, Los picked up a team and they were like, Sexy Cake, you get the call over. But Sexy Cake has been performing extremely well on a role that maybe if you, again, aren't used to seeing him on the international scene after he's been off Liquid for a couple years now, this is kind of a normal performance. He's been really aggressive, playing in people's faces, not relegated to mute and smoke shotgun like maybe you think he used to be, holding down the site while Nesk and Palu go on these crazy roams. He's been getting very aggressive and had a great Brazil stage 2, one of the highest rated players on E1 Sports, that previous roster. And now here in NA, both him and Legacy against DZ have been easily the best performers so far at 4 and 5 and 1 respectively.
Most definitely. For Darkzero, it's probably going to be a change of game plan, potentially a change of pace. As Los essentially wearing masks, hiding inside of North America as a Brazilian squad, right? Completely different play style, more than likely applicable for them. So they'll be able to knock down Bo. Canadian's going to run in, kind of a rush strategy here. They know a player's got to be inside of Garage, but I think that's a body that just got dropped by Nape. And yes, indeed, it is. A nice pickup there, but Canadian is standing on hollowed ground. There is going to be a player down low that can potentially play spoils into this scenario. Ursa, try and maintain the cross. Canadian not wanting to stick this plant just yet. A stalemate in between these two with solid positioning going over to the offensive front.
You can see DZ are aware of the fact that they do not have Lounge, not only by Canadian stalling, but look at this reallocation of personnel. Pambazu and
What in the hell?
They were take Lounge away. What is that flank from Sexy Cake? Where the hell did he come from? He come down bottom main all the way through the basement.
Oh my.
There is no safe territory for Darkzero. Even recognizing the threat in front of them, they are powerless to stop it. The C4, a phantom menace in round 3 as Los look unstoppable.
I mean, Sexy Cake effectively assassinating the attempt there for Darkzero to take the round. Everything was built on the precipice of being able to clear out that secret position, being able to make that plant a safe route for Darkzero. And Sexy Cake somehow, some way, has seen the light of day through the clouds, and he's able to get out ahead of Darkzero. 3 rounds now at the behest of Lost, at the behest of Sexy Cake, and what he's been able to produce, at least across these last 2 rounds. I mean, I am just befuddled at what is happening to Darkzero here, Carter.
Well, the tactical, I imagine they are too, because the tactical timeout coming after this 0-3 start is an absolute necessity. Because DZ have not tried everything, but look at these attacks so far. Full clear. Traditional DZ playstyle. Get the vertical control. Start util clearing on the bottom floor. Go for the flood down blue, and it doesn't end up working out. Okay, unlucky is what it is. Next round. All right, let's bring a Monty into the mix. Let's go for that full clear, clear out the cache CCTV extension, but we'll bring a little bit of an added twist. We'll put some pressure on them with the Monty because they're extending all the way to red. Oh, well, we've died because Sexy Cake has found his way behind us, and we've also been smoked by Legacy inside a cache. Well, that's unlucky. These full clears aren't working. Let's rush. Let's turn up the pace. Turn up the heat in the kitchen. Maybe we'll burn them. Up, we've all died because we didn't take lounge control down below. We can't plant because of the C4, and Sexy Cake, again, has hit the around-the-world flank in basement and completely undone the round. Darkzero are changing things. They're adapting, and Los are playing almost exactly the same in every single one of these rounds and winning no matter what happens. And as we go back down to church, I'm frightened for DZ if the problem here is gunfights and not strategy.
This has been a complete shutdown of Darkzero. The only person that has passed a breadstick on this team right now is Pamba. And really, that's just because Pamba had to try and spearhead things inside of those mid-round adaptations for Darkzero, able to pick up some solid kills in that scenario, yeah, but as that, it hasn't gotten a lot done for them. Los has been constantly calling the shots, constantly battling Darkzero back and buffering them. Now for DZ, the adjustments have to be made. A timeout, now gone. Won't have it for the remainder of the game. No stopping this train now. We know that Los, especially with the frontal assault they're showing right now, are not going to be showing any signs of slowing down soon.
No quarter whatsoever. Darkzero painstaking on this clear. Hunting down this player on the top floor. Sexy Cake.
On mute?
I was about to say, he might be on mute, but this man has never met a roam he wouldn't try. He is going all the way to the top floor, and all he's got one, maybe two mute jammers to support him on this roam. And look at how much time he's wasting. 1.5 minutes gone for, and I'm not joking, one guy in construction.
I have no idea where he is. This mute jammer is so perfect. Just on this metal sheet. This is always a solid spot to try and hold down on the top floor. Sexy Cake will tag up Bo, so they know he's inside of the cache area now, but look at the timer, folks. That's all I want you to pay attention to. Although he's going to go down here, 1 minute and 14 seconds remain for Darkzero. They're attacking the basement, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to think about that for a second. There's so many things still to do. Sexy Cake just had to stand on a mute jammer inside of construction. He gets 2 minutes of the round.
Bolo has all his boogies in pocket too. Nothing used. Remember how quickly those were used in round one? 45 seconds into the kitchen window, in through the main hallway. Bam, soft destruction done. Not this time. Remember how at 1 minute 10 seconds left, Darkzero were util burning on Blue Hatch, destroying that AK shield? Hey, the shield's up. So are the F-Knots. And 1 minute 10 seconds is 35 seconds ago. Los are running circles around Darkzero in every single aspect of their play at the moment. And as Darkzero open up the main wall, they have a 4v5, and if they can find these kills, it might not matter. Blue control, still in the hands of Los. So as Canadian moves in to put that diffuser down, Nafe can cover, hold the angles. Bolo also not getting aggressive. I love this play. Not overplaying Darkzero's hand, waiting for Los to go for the retake, waiting for them to swing, and now is when Darkzero cut them down. 1 minute and 40 seconds wasted in the early round, and with 30 seconds to spare after the timeout, it is a flawless to get them back in the game.
There it is for Darkzero. I was worried about the transition there. I was worried about their capability to try and get that offense to go off in such a timely manner. But I mean, they not only snuffed out Los, but they shut me up as well there for that mid-round comment that I had. So apologies for that, boys. But what a moment there for Darkzero. They get the church wall open, make some nice adjustments, especially that pressure play coming in from the ace on the main stairs. The cross angle there for Los not strong enough, and instead the ace is able to knock out, I believe, the Legion in behind the bomb chassis for Church, and that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. The rest of Los is completely boxed out of the sight at that moment. The closest thing that they really have is Blue, but you also saw those angles getting worked, not only from the hatch, but also from secret stairs too out of DZ, and just made things very complicated for Los to try and find the angles that could have potentially led to their success in shutting DZ down on that execution. But once again, great there from Darkzero on being able to transition in such quick time after taking Sexy Cake out on that top floor.
And I think that last part is undeniably, not maybe the complete difference maker, but having that 5v4 with such low time makes it so much better, because as the Dats talked about, if DZ can get set up, they are very difficult to beat. And there, it might not have been a lot, but they got set up. They had the 5v4, the breach open, Bolo playing very passively in blue. It was a good read of the situation from DZ, still with low time on the clock. As we move to gym and bedroom, no Monty in sight. No Monty in sight at all. Instead, Sexy Cake with that C4 will look for anybody on the breach, and if anybody meets that C4, it's going to be with great reluctance, because 45 seconds in, Darkzero see that mirror window. They've likely droned out the presence in CCTV, and they are finding any way to not meet these Los players head on, either with utility or with any guns.
You can see the strategy is definitely getting deeper here for Darkzero, not that it wasn't before, but trying to make sure this flank isn't possible. Track stingering secret, making sure that they have some positioning over inside of garage too, as they'll open things up this angle. Only have to worry about too much minus that cash door for Nafe's sake. Put Pambazoo in down low, and you can see all of Darkzero trying to work this portion of the map at the same time. I always love it whenever we see this. Lots of different utility pieces, especially the skeleton key, going to complicate things for Sexy Cake. He does not want to try and transition back across this cash angle. He knows that they're going to be around that space, especially after Canadian takes down one of the lowest players. Pamba's going to be able to pick up Bursa too. And it's going to be a 5 versus 3 in favor of the offense.
Darkzero making Los's playstyle work to their advantage now. Bursa and Furious go for a very, honestly, unneeded flank. Sure, Darkzero are pressuring the cash position heavily, but until just now, Legacy was still alive. Sexy Cake was still alive. But Furious and Bursa go for that flank, give DZ a 5v3, and now that they actually have cleared out the cash roam, whereas maybe spending a minute 50 seconds on this position puts them in a difficult spot like it did in the previous round. They're low on time. They don't have a lot of time to convert onto the bomb site and maybe open up that jacuzzi wall or add other angles onto this execute. Because of that flank, it's now a 5v2. And with 40 seconds left, that is all the time in the world. You can open jacuzzi wall. You can use any one of your 6 remaining drones to find these remaining defenders. Because of that flank, it is such a better position for DZ, and honestly, in such a good spot to win it. Unless Rise is able to get aggressive and Sexy Cake is able to find some kills.
Oh, I love this from Canadian. They have so many bodies, Carter. They can basically apply pressure to every single facet of this bomb site. Nafe already takes down Sexy Cake. The plant going down for Nafe too. Rise, he's been relegated to the logistics position and then relegated to a tomb as Darkzero pick up their second round, but it's more than likely going to be stale faces across the board. The job is not done yet. Los has gotten a lot of heavy lifting done through those first 3 rounds, and Darkzero are looking to try and equalize things before we get to halftime.
I've already talked about how I think Los kind of overthought that round, and I think maybe should have reined in that aggressive instinct a little bit better.
Yeah, the flank downstairs is just a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's especially 2 people going for that flank. It's a bit unnecessary, but it's still a good read from DZ that they were trying to disrupt, which was, okay, guys, Legacy is frying us. Sexy Cake is frying us. Any small gap we leave, they are filling. Let's not even put ourselves in a situation where we're taking a gunfight on the same plane as them. Let's just avoid the C4 entirely. It's what they're setting up for. Take the buck, go down below, pressure their positions, and when we're holding angles in garage and on plat wall, we'll try to make them uncomfortable or just make them leave. And we're still taking a long time, 1 minute 50 seconds, and the only opening kills coming from that flank, but I still like that adaptation from DZ. Sure, it takes a lot of time, but it indicates that they're recognizing Los's strength so far and trying to find ways to circumvent.
And the real moment is right here, right now. Does Los have the capabilities to understand what Darkzero were able to produce inside of that last round? The fact that Darkzero were able to read that far out into the ether, understand that Los is probably going to try and send maybe a body or 2 on the flank to try and stunt Darkzero while they're attempting to build things up on the cash side. If Darkzero are able to try and read things through again, then Los could have an issue on their hands. So see how they want to try and assert their dominance over this round. The previous ones we've seen some pretty calculated aggression. This time it's looking like we have the full Monty, no pun intended, as Canadian will work his way down dirt with Monty in tow. As that case in hand, Bursa, a chance there. Canadian, by the skin of his teeth, will be able to stay alive as there's a pixel separating a bullet in his head.
I honestly cannot believe Bursa did not get that kill. I mean, Canadian was a sitting duck. Such a freebie right there. Could have really spelled doom for Darkzero's push, but there are plenty of other opportunities to find a kill. Darius, is he unread underneath these garage stairs? Is Defender able to shoot enough drones to stop them from spotting him? Sexy Cake as well. Also, as you said, Defender on that secret stair is able to help Legacy inside a bar. Also, aggressively postured towards Darkzero. That means, by the way, if you're keeping score, I'm gonna say the Thorn's the only one on site, but Legacy, the first one out the door, rotates right in front of the chain position. Easy pickings for DZ.
That was just very unfortunate for him. He kind of sprints forward with the shoulder check initially there, then fully commits, but not only commits into a stun grenade, but awaiting Bolo as well. So not only are you blind, but you're going up against one of the best in the business. He's going to be able to gun you down. Rise. Oh, so there's one on the cross. Mizzou over on the stock side, too. Two completely different scenarios, but man, do they look similar, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Canadian. Bringing it back to bear inside of dirt. How many times am I going to have to teach you this lesson, old man, is what Burst is thinking. He's trying to battle him back. I don't know if he's got more of these blossoms inside of dirt, but there is definitely going to be some extra spice on the back end of this push here for the Monty. He'll step forward, some shots coming out from Bursa, but the delivery right around the angle from Nave is going to be a 5 versus 3 for DZ in the dying moments.
Oh, but he shot! The feet exposed underneath the extended shield, and Sexy Cake smoked the dirt push! On that DZ pack right now, Sexy Cake is feeling mighty fine. Barely any drones remaining to watch the flank as Rise and Furious catch DZ completely off guard in secret. How this round has collapsed. Can Bolo and NJR recover? It's seeming unlikely. NJR with the push-up long haul can maybe find the solace, but it's all impactless. A 4-2 half for Los, and I still can't believe they are running away with Clubhouse.
I don't know how this man's smoking a black hole, but he's doing it. It's truly impressive. He's bending space and time right now. And I mean, that second shot, most definitely. That is a hallmark I am bending space and time moment. Just right before he gets in behind the dummies box, Carter decapitates the man inside of dirt. What the hell was that? That the entire round rests at the feet of Canadian, and this dirt push from Nave, and Sexy Cake immediately just eats it all up. There's nothing there for Darkzero. The river is dried. There's no more anything. There's no more growth for them in round 6, and Los are going to take the defensive stronghold that they built their entire bet on for that side. And they're going to win it all as they're able to take that side 4-2. Darkzero now going to be headed downstairs for their very first defense.
Such a surreal position that Darkzero find themselves in. I mean, I get this team, if you disrupt their plan, they can face issues. I get all the cliches, but jeez, what a spot they find themselves in. And even on this defensive half against SQ, it was still a struggle. It was a 2-4 half against SQ's attacks. And I'm not saying that, without really many evidence, and also the evidence we do have on that Oregon game, Los's attacks, again, except on basement, were not anything stellar. And even then, it was very, very close. Los still are going against a weak half for DZ on this map in the NAL so far, which, to be fair, has been one game. But considering how DZ have struggled so far, it is looking like barely any time has passed since DZ's 7-2 loss against SQ just a week ago.
Yeah, most definitely. And this is, especially if this game continues the way that it is, this is problematic for Darkzero, and that's more than likely an understatement. This is something that we do not see out of this team. Even when Darkzero makes line shifts, they bring in new players, things of the sort. They're still well within their right on bad days to be a top 4 team. But so far at the beginning of this stage, things have not looked good for Darkzero in the slightest. And this, I mean, at least starting the day, right? You look at this matchup for Darkzero and you go, yeah, Los is a solid team, but this is almost like a layup for this squad. I mean, they looked pretty solid at SI. Coming into today, this should definitely be a statement game for them to really tell you the tale of what's going to happen for them for the rest of this stage, but it's been anything but.
And of course, I mean, we could look back on this stuff depending on the stage and say, wow, this is where Los really started an incredible run, really showed us that at least inside of NA, they could be a really tough team. But right now, without enough evidence to make that conclusion, DZ end up losing this. Could be a big, big question mark on their performance. But we're a minute 45 seconds in. And it's been a pretty standard round from Los. They're opening up the kitchen hatch, getting pressure down bottom main. They have Various lurking over by blue. This is an incredibly normal clear on Clubhouse on this Church Arsenal bomb site. So how are DZ going to react in the 5v5? Well, Los have moved in through the ash wall position, and it's instead Los to get the big opening picks. Nave's able to fight back in a big way, but it's only a 2v2. And Bolo on very low HP after fending off the blue push by himself. But that still means diffusers inside of the site. Because that push has been repelled, Los don't have that extra angle. They've got one player bottom main and one player on the hatch, and they're still Canadian in dirt. He can swing out and stop Sexy Cake's entrance. So instead, it's Rise to move to pick up that diffuser, and Sexy Cake on the vert finds Bolo inside a church. Now Rise can bait the diffuser, force the swing from Canadian, while Sexy Cake cuts it off from the hatch. That C4 is not hitting Shrek if he was planning the bomb, but those shots are doming the kitchen hatch player. So Canadian will wait. The flashes go out. Rise is going for the pick. He's hungry for it. Shotgun on shotgun, and Canadian's better. Keeps him in the game. A much closer round that was needed, but he builds off the work of Nafe and keeps DZ alive.
There's no way in hell that Canadian wins that, right? I mean, absolutely every odd that you could potentially build up in Rainbow Six is against him, folks. Let me tell you, SAS operator, playing inside of dirt. Everybody and their brother knows where you are. Not only do you have the position from the kitchen hatch, but you also have the active plant already going down deep inside of Armory. This is a worst case scenario for any dirt player, because where the hell do you go, Lynx? You have to take the challenge. That's what you have to do. And Canadian, on one of the harshest angles to try and take a fight in this game, that swing off of dirt door through the hatch to that player playing just beneath the little like cabinet stack in kitchen, he's able to not only win that, but also play out things to perfection inside of dirt up against the last remaining Los player. That is why he is Canadian. That is why he is a historic player inside of North America. And that's why Darkzero are able to keep a round away from Los that they most should have had.
I'm sorry, I went back to check the replay because I was like, I wonder how many flashbangs he had. I didn't realize that was a trade.
Yeah, it was. He won that on a trade.
I didn't even realize that. That is crazy. That's another ridiculous dimension in and of itself. It's already wild that 1v2 happened. But anyway, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When I said I hope the rest of the games were great, I did not have high hopes for this game, and boy are Los proving me wrong, and I am happy to see it. And boy are DZ still proving me wrong, because they might be keeping it close, but damn is it entertaining. But still, you're a Darkzero fan, and you want the level of play they brought at SI to remain consistent domestically. You're looking for them to bounce back further. Will they be able to do so on Gym and Bedroom? Well, Los have started their clear early on. Sexy Cake, lurking in Strip at the moment, has found out the Valkyrie. And this is an operator. It might as well be the Troy Canadian counter, because as he's been spotted on one of his stereotypical solo lurks across the map, that is real-time info being sent directly to Deimos' HUD, and it gets Los an advantage.
Deimos might be one of the harder operators to swing on a offensive assault, trying to work him into your lineup, as he's a little selfish. It's all personal info. You have to use that pistol secondary when you are using the primary, and let alone that, you already have to have the info in the first place as to who these operators are to start using that pistol. But Sexy Cake, I think this is a perfect moment for them to try and implement this because of, a player like Canadian. As you said, off on his solo roam, they discover him downstairs. And you guys have probably heard me say this a lot of times. With a nice kill, he'll find Furious. But you really don't want to try and go on these extended roams without too much utility to try and assist. This Nape is going to make that a double. But Canadian gets away with those very, very often. That's the perfect moment to try and have a player like Deimos, work into your lineup, try and, get rid of that potential fold working its way in from the defensive end. But I digress. Two players now both going down with that disconnect there from Pamba. It's a 3 versus 3 with 30 seconds remaining.
Really unlucky DC for Darkzero right there. We've seen 2 of those today. In the case of Hat, it didn't end up mattering as he clutched a huge round as a result, but here it just makes it a 3v3. This is still very winnable for Darkzero. 20 seconds left. You've got some F-Knots from Bolo in all likelihood. You still have the mirror windows from NGR as the big factor. Logic control as well, still in Darkzero's hands, and that means this con push can easily be shot in the back if nobody's watching, or they give DZ the opening they need. Mirror window watching the default plant spot too. Sarais will have to sprint across. He's immediately down. Bursa with kill on the entry, and it's actually Bursa with the diffuser, so he'll plant plant on the solo panel inside a gym, and there's nothing for these remaining DZ players to do. Legacy can cut them off. He can dome them the moment they walk out of Logi. Lead reestablished for Los. They still had it, but we're back to 2 rounds ahead of DZ.
Vamos, boys. Los looking spry when it comes to the execution there, especially when it comes to the planter. Ursa not only able to get the kill, but also get the case down. Solid oversight there as well for Los, just to make sure that things weren't going to go sideways randomly as DZ tried to regather control over the bomb site. But now a tech pause out here in between these two. 5-3 in favor of Los, and a scoreline, especially for how solid Los has been playing on both sides of the coin. A scoreline that I don't really think any of us were expecting coming into this game.
No, not at all. I'm not gonna. I won't lie to you guys. I kind of, for the LG game, I still predicted M80, but I was like, you know, we've seen a lot of like good stuff from LG, even in the game they lost against SSG, and obviously the game they won against Beast Coast. I think M80 will win, but like, I wouldn't be shocked if LG managed to upset in a close game. You know, that's what ended up happening, and my prediction is still wrong, but I had a feeling that it wasn't a rock solid pick. On no planet, in no universe, was I not picking DZ this game? Was I not thinking that Darkzero were going to have a leg up over a team that, again, might I add, if you, I don't know, if you're just like scrolling through Twitch and you're like, Jinxie's not online, what's this R6 Esports thing? Well, Darkzero were a top 6 team at SI, and this Los roster didn't exist a month ago. And right now they are up 5-3 on one of the most standard maps in not only in the pool, but in the North American pool. Yeah, I don't think anybody could have predicted this at all. And even then, when DZ are trying to retake Sam, they're completely shut out by Los just by a small decision with no time left.
We've reached critical mass, brother, for sure, most definitely. Especially with Bo. I didn't even see this before I said that, but I mean, I'm gonna stand 10 toes on it now. We got Bo on dock, man. Come on, what else could be going on in their heads?
They've broken glass.
Go shoot somebody! Like, come on, man! Like,
they're like, Bolo, I know you want some comp clips for the YouTube, but we are in our hour of need, and we need Bolo, Doc, ACOG, and Rafters.
Hey, we might lose this game, but at least you're gonna get 100K views on the YouTubes. You know what I mean? There we go.
Gotta give him that, but still indicates, of course, a garage hold from Darkzero. No Wamai on the board, and obviously Azami's banned, so I will say, Bolo a bit undefended right there. He has the stim pistols to bring him back to full HP, and if there was a Capitan on board, to maybe even survive those fire bolts, but he is still really relying on the ACOG and the stims, as many a Doc player does, to try and make this work. Los also taking control of the first floor, making sure that they deny the C4s from Darkzero later in the round. But now they know this. Valkyrie Cam spots the Jackal inside a bar. So I imagine we'll see a Canadian flank at some point in the round to try to deal with this.
Fortunately enough for him, Sexy Cake has not discovered any of his tracks just yet. Rise seemingly aware, though, as Canadian will tag him up all the way over in the bar connector. Rise will skimper back off over towards main. Los, I think, doing a great job of operating around Darkzero right now, and they've also found a nice shot onto Pamba. Sexy Cake has to be aware that he's going to be around this space. He's going to give him a nice little shoulder check there. Leans out initially, but oh man, overplays his hand so heavily. Canadian still occupying this space with a deagle, and he gets the kill all because of that Inox. If you tag Jackal while he's got that Inox on Carter, the guy can't see a damn thing. That's the best way to put it.
Still Canadian keeping them in the game, but of course he's in a difficult spot now. Darius is able to rotate over to the secret window and cut off Canadian's retreat back. That's honestly fine, because we're in that position. Remember I talked about Ambi hitting that flank, that moment where the attack is setting up and you can strike when they're most vulnerable? Well, Los are reaching that point. They're opening up the con single wall, and while there are things like the Doc still alive in garage, the Maestro still on site, there is still the potential for a C4 from below to completely stop Los from putting this bomb down, putting the case on the floor, or even, if defusing is not a priority for Los, still keeping the advantage alive for DZ. Bolo on the angle, waiting for the peek, just spots it for a second. He'll force him back. That's a couple precious seconds cost from Los flooding in, and Canadian unaccounted for. Never mind, Furious is able to find it, but Legacy making it easy for DZ as he domes his teammate in the back of the head and finds himself in a 1v3 with such low time. He's not winning this one, even with the pistol. Darkzero closed the lead again, but still have one more round to go before they tie it up.
I don't think that Lowe's had a bad idea as to how to handle that at all. I mean, they try to at least get the ball rolling over on the construction side for a clear, right? Try and get that pressure taken care of down low. But Canadian goes a little unaccounted for, at least initially, as he's able to chill over inside a secret. But then things start to pop off. Some big moments for DZ as they start to deal some considerable damage to Los's offensive lineup. Start getting some bodies, start being able to stand in the way of their map control. And yes, eventually Los are able to make their way into a construction-sided take, but they don't have some of the key pressure points taken care of for Darkzero, specifically from what we saw there. Bo, as he's able to hold that cross there from Garage and really just keep them at the gates. That allows the rest of Darkzero to kind of buckle down and make it to where Los aren't able to get those big sweeping moments like they were previously. That's going to lead into round 9, going the way of DZ, keeping Los off of that penultimate point, making things a little bit more palatable, especially as they go down to the basement.
I like this from DZ. Try and just present problems that Los have to clear. The logic is, okay, they're a bit more inexperienced of a team. Let's make them really work to acquire this map control. Then an extended structured roam with the castle is exactly what I would think would be kind of, I want to say the solution to DZ's problems, but still something that might really cause issues for Los. Another thing with this Deimos, if they're able to hunt down an isolated player, could be a very big issue, as we saw with Canadian. But here, he's fallen back. Bolo sitting on the main stairs. They've put up these castles, likely supported by mute jammers, and left. Because this is the biggest paper tiger you can possibly construct. You see those castle barricades and these mute jammers. We saw how much time one mute jammer wasted when DZ were full clearing. Now you have basically every indicator of an extended roam and nobody inside of it. This is likely going to waste a lot of time for Los unless they get wise really quickly.
Yep. That's a little Trojan horse here that's been made for Darkzero, and you can see the Los bodies upstairs right now, probably with a few drones around me. Like, okay, is there even anybody trying to defend this area? They will find Bo around the main stairs, but not going to have anybody around the space to try and really adapt anything in. Sexy Cake does have the pistol on a long angle, but the stars would have to align for him to hit a shot like that. I think that DZ is going to risk it all that much either, as the initial portion of their strategy has already worked out pretty swimmingly. Lois took the bait, ended up trying to clear out the top floor. About halfway through this round now, as they'll traverse into the mid-level and start to see what they can try and apply to this area.
Really not a whole lot of time wasted if you think about it. I mean, a lot of utility expended by DZ. They waste half the round, sure, but much more was wasted by Los with far, far less utility application. Just one mute jammer versus a whole likely host of them and castle barricades. They're still well on their way, but it's still the same reality that Los might have to face, which is a 5v5 execute on the site. They've recognized some of the castle barricades down below as well, starting to open it up, so now the blue flood will be a little bit easier. And this is where those death mark trackers are going to start coming into play. Sexy Cake might be low HP, but if he can hunt down these players in sight, he still might give himself an advantageous enough engagement once they go in for the execute. It is going to be extremely low time, extremely difficult with all the angles DZ are holding, and nothing has been given away by the defense yet.
No curveball. Oh, no
Gotta make a
splitter.
decision, buddy.
Just premium gas. And Sexy Cake, as well as Los, starting off on the right foot somehow, some way. Impact out will tag up Sexy Cake, and the second one will send him to his maker. What a moment here for Los is, my God, Carter, they've done it. They've somehow opened it up. Versa will get the case back in his hand, and Nitro Cell will take out Versa. 8 seconds remain. It's all up to Rise as Nape will take out yet another Los player. Darkzero, they've somehow, some way, found a way to tie things up after Los practically beat them over the head on that execution. Darkzero able to find their way back into the good graces of the Siege gods and tie it up 5-5.
Ladies and gentlemen, Darkzero have Los where they want them. What do I mean by that? When we saw those attacks against OXG in Los's only game in the NAL so far, that is what they looked like. Very low time, very low control or pressure on the site, and betting it all on floods and small lapses in the positioning from, well, in this case, Darkzero, in the previous week, OXG. That's how they won basement twice, was not necessarily off of strategic prowess. It was, the attack's not working, we gotta flood in. And then they just get all the kills, because these are very mechanically talented players, but that is when they were struggling in the OXG game, was when they weren't able to get easy picks to start, or a bunch of control for free at the beginning, when they had to fight for control, burn a lot of time, and then fight tooth and nail for kills on the execute. And it's a credit to Los that in multiple examples in the NAL so far, they're still able to make it a 5v2 or a 4v2. But if Darkzero are making Los constantly gamble in these final few rounds on attacks like that, but can keep Nath composed or keep dirt control in their favor, or just keep enough players on the site that it doesn't matter, that is where Los are most vulnerable. And while this has been a flashy game, Sam, while it's been crazy that it's been this close, we might have actually gotten to the point 11 rounds in of where we probably should have been at the beginning with what these teams' previous performances have looked like.
There's only two things that could be going on right now. We've either had the storm pass us or we're in the eye of it. That means that there's still more to come, Carter. Which, honestly, if I had to make a guess, I'm going to guess with the latter. I really think that there's still going to be some calamity, some chaos that's imbued into these further rounds, especially with Sexy Cake getting on the Blackbeard of all operators. Also, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Sexy Cake apparently allergic to ACOGs as well, as he's constantly been rocking that Russian red dot.
Listen, if he's 13-7 with it, I don't care what sign he uses. I legitimately don't care. If he's not a 2.5x king, that's fine. He's putting up great performances, and who am I to complain? 45 seconds in, and I'm not complaining either, because Los have said, okay, Jim bedroom attack. Let's not overcomplicate things. Let's open up plat wall first. Let's maybe get some pressure inside of CCTV and cash, but of course, importantly, likely focus on the jacuzzi wall as well, as you see Legacy on the ace with those Selmas rotating over to the jacuzzi wall now to open it up and get some very important hard breaching. So it's all the basics to start for Los. And as the Blackbeard has taken his position on the metal balcony, we know what Sexy Cake has planned. He is going to be a menace on these exterior windows.
It's a whole game plan for him. Trying to occupy the balcony, make sure these longer angles that try and play out for the doorways, as well as potentially a rotate there for construction, aren't as easily gathered by the defense. They have to worry about him occupying that area. And obviously, those first couple of shots aren't going to be able to make contact with him if he does position himself correctly. It'll be the moment that he needs in order to strike true, get that headshot, have an opener here for Los. It's a patience game right now between these two. A numbers game as well, as it's still 5-5, which means when that first kill does go off here in the sub-minute time, I'm likely going to push things over the edge. Also, its value more than likely going to skyrocket as well. For Los, they're looking to be the first one in that category. Canadian, at his own behest, looking to make this flank happen at a moment's notice. He's been occupying Secret for so very long, and Legacy still has a drone here, but there's nobody really to try and stick on that just yet. You have so many bodies still up and about. You can see Legacy is still constantly trying to check that on the back end, but here we are. Ursa puts his way in, and oh my, they'll be able to take down NJR.
He's just smoked them. They've walked in. They've completely cleared out Logi. This is what I mean. Logic doesn't make sense. Your strategy doesn't matter. With 30 seconds left, they just sprint into the bomb site, and he doesn't even finish off the Maverick. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't work. And yet somehow, on another very linear take, Los have match point.
Yo, dude, it's got to be Freaky Friday. There's no way. I'm like, you know, I say this is unprecedented a lot, but across these last 3 games, this has been just something else. I do not know what is in the water right now here on this beautiful Friday that we've had, but my God, man, there is something else happening to these teams. Right now, Los, they got to be loving it. He's sweeping clear, just working his way through logistics. I mean, what a find. I'm still just completely at a loss for words that they were able to, you know, kind of suss out that player just off on that really odd angle inside of Logi. A great read there from Los. 3 kills coming from that push. Able to transition that into a beautiful plant right on the opposite side of gold.
5 seconds left before insertion.
This has been a weird... I mean, what's even going to happen next game if this is how the first 3 games have been? Like, is Bosco going to hit, like, the greatest smoke 1v5 of all time? Is Gunnar going to hit the nastiest Boss G ACOG spawn peak we've ever seen? Like, I don't know, Sam. Like, 6-5 now. Los on match point. DZ trying Gym Bedroom again. I mean, what do you even do there? Like, Los had nothing. And then they flood in and get a 5v2. How do you even counter that? Do you just roam harder? Do you just hit your shots? Like,
I was going to say, I mean, trolling, not trolling. Sometimes, Carter, you just got to shoot your opponent. And that's really what a round like that comes down to. You got to win your engagements. Now, I will say this. That's why I was so shocked by that initial kill inside of Logi, because from my perspective, it really didn't seem like Los had that good of an understanding on where he was. They knew he was in the area, but just to have that inkling, just that idea in the back of your mind, oh, I should probably check all my corners. Just a great understanding of the scenario played out in front of them, and something where it's just one of those moments, like I said previously. Sometimes you just gotta hope that you win the engagements, and for Darkzero, they just didn't.
well, in this particular case, you see Pamazoo looking to win a very beautiful engagement. Sexy Cake, a freebie outside on CC balcony. And Darkzero's solution, besides maybe hoping to hit their shots, is genuinely hold more control, present more problems that Los have to solve. And as Sexy Cake falls on the metal balcony, it's exactly what DZ are doing. Roaming inside of CCTV and Cash, forcing Los to try to take the initiative, to get aggressive and fight these players on the roam. F not activated, easy pickings for Bolo. Canadian might fall, but this Red Stairs hold is still solid. Bolo going for a clip right now, a 3K very well in the making. There's only 2 players left, but 1 inside a garage. Looking to take a 1v1 against the Jaeger. He will find his target. Now, Los have to reset a little bit, Sam. Take 20 seconds or so and pause.
Well, the good news, she'll have drones in order to do that, and still have 2 bodies. This is most definitely doable.
A bomb has been located.
But it's going to require a lot of heavy lifting. A Herculean effort, especially when it comes to trying to work these angles. Darkzero are well within their right to take this round, but all of these rounds have been so damn weird in between these 2 teams. Really can't count either one of them out. Verse is going to start trying to clear things up over on Wade's Carter. Legacy and him split a little bit on duties right now, but that's not exactly the worst thing in the world. Legacy, just seeing what the answer is going to be from Darkzero. What are they going to attempt to implement? I think that this is honestly a solid read from them. Verse is going to work his way forward. They don't have anybody downstairs. Versa not flirting with the plant just yet, but Legacy also going to step up to the plate. No, he has one on gold, but what a find there from Nave, using that castle barricade to its utmost effectiveness. Whether it was pre-punch or he ripped it down, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Darkzero as a whole dealing with that situation so very well, not overplaying things, not getting overzealous and donating a kill or 2 to the offense, just keeping that hand close to the chest, making sure that they're able to force this into overtime.
That's the round you're just so happy you get for Darkzero, not just because obviously it gets them to OT, but that's how it should have gone. Like, that's how the round should have played out. You have a hold in CCTV and Cash. You've got a guy red, low start to clear it, then immediately back off. The guy on red stairs is fed 1v1 engagements, and if you put a good player behind a deployable shield, which Bolo certainly is, he should be able to win those fights. He does. So what do Los have to push forward? Sure, they might have found Canadian and eventually traded out Bolo, but it's still a 2v3 with all the control actually on the site going your way. Only 1 player who can cover the diffuser. That's exactly how round 12 should have gone based on what was set up at the beginning and what we ended up seeing paid off at the end. Now as they are on the defense again, they moved down to Church and Arsenal. This is where we still saw a lot of those weird rounds, and a Canadian 1v2 that still brought back around where Los almost stole it away from DZ.
Wow. Did not think that we were going to have something like this when I sat down. I thought it would be a pretty good game. Definitely did not see us going to overtime and what could potentially be the barn burner of the day on Clubhouse. But Man, I don't know what it is about Canadian, man. It feels like whenever a game lines up that you just don't really think is going to be too action-packed and his name's in there, something crazy just has to happen. I don't know what it is. But yet again, have another example of this. As DZ looking to get it done inside of overtime. Unfortunately enough for their case, especially in the standings for our NAL leaderboard, they only have the capability of picking up 2 points now, Carter. But those 2 points definitely going to be something that they are so very grateful for if they're able to take away a few rounds from Los here.
If they can do it is obviously the key word there. The word doing all the heavy lifting, is that has been a far more difficult feat than I imagine they thought possible. It's another pretty normal beginning for Los. They're doing the same folklore they did before, and we know what positions they're likely going to hold by the end of the round. Ursa going to be at bottom main, trying to run into Ashwell with that diffuser in all likelihood. Farius with the lurk down blue stairs. Ram acquiring that vert, but also Rise and Sexticake trying to help on that kitchen hatch. This is what they're setting up for, and maybe there are some small adjustments, but right now, this is the exact same start that we saw in the previous attack.
There's going to continue to be so as well as they start to break things down around the kitchen hallway. Legacy probably going to break up the castle barricade with those Skyros, and that's exactly how they're going to try and propel themselves forward. For Darkzero, I know you're shocked, Carter. It's going to be practically the exact same setup as we saw previously. Have the Evil Eyes implemented, have Canadian playing things over inside of Dirt on that SMG-11 wielding Mute once again with a sub-minute remaining. Los now locked inside of the Hell in the Cell, you can essentially say, up against Darkzero on this basement site.
You can see them all starting to clump up around that moto hatch. Now spreading back out again. I think Lowe's struggling to make the call for where to push. Especially if that
There's
blue
no
lurk-
way.
I mean,
It's a default camera.
another one, man. 2 defaults they
we
was in
go,
shot. All right, he finds it. I suppose they know that there's one guy moto now, but Los, they know where they're pushing from. And I imagine Darkzero are pretty aware at this point, but Bursa not going for the push in through Ashwall, instead pushing up the hallway. Meanwhile, the attack is falling to pieces around him. He gets 1 kill on that lurk up main. Wait, it's a 1v1? Nafe is down on the floor. Legacy might not have diffuser, but he's got 20 seconds left. Does he have time to find Bolo? Can he read the right angle? We know Bolo's in church. Does Legacy know it? He confirms the kill, but by extension confirms his position, sprints across the hallway,
Doesn't know.
flashbang in, but he exposes himself to the MP7. Match point acquired for DZ, but suddenly I had to clear the air real quick. I didn't even realize how close that round had gotten.
Truly insane. Truly insane. Especially for Los' sake. It feels like they get so much done, right, on the entry there. And when the dust settles, all of a sudden, it's between one player on each respective squad trying to gun it out for what is potentially one of the most important rounds inside of that OT. That could be the closest one that we see between these two. And it just comes down to a gunfight. A miscalculation there from Los as Boast ups deeper in on Church. A flash goes wide, and he's able to take the gunfight off of the bomb chassis. What a moment there for Darkzero. What a moment for Bolo, as he's 8-8 right now. But a lot of these kills that we've seen out of him have been the utmost impactful, just like what we saw inside that last round.
And we also got to talk about Nath. In so many of these basement rounds, he has been the difference maker. On the previous flood into the site, getting a huge 2-piece on the players dropping down the kitchen hatch. In that round as well, able to get a couple kills to stop Los from flooding in. He has, of course, been a great player inside of the game so far, 15-9, but on those rounds in particular, he has done a solid job. Thankfully, we finally have a crash that happens before 2 minutes and 45 seconds left in the round, so we can't actually rehost on that one, thankfully, and we won't have an awkward 4v5 in such a crucial round.
Yeah, very nice. This Darkzero won't have to worry too much, as they could have potentially lost a body in the actual round. But fortunately enough, as you said, we're going to be able to rehost things, and it should be a pretty straightforward affair for our rehostee as well, as our spectator will be getting this back in so very soon, folks. So do not move, do not touch that browser. 7-6 right now in favor of Darkzero, as they will be trying to get things done from the offensive perspective. Los showing us a basement defense to start things off for their what could be very last round here on Clubhouse, Carter. And with that basement defense that we've seen from Los thus far, it hasn't been a huge overplay. We've seen some things go on these top levels, but it's pretty much just been a turtle strategy from them, making it to where Darkzero are able to take pretty solid control, at least initially. It just comes down to those crunch moments, right? In that sub-minute category, we're more than likely going to see a lot of fireworks.
Which you'd think would honestly be fine for DZ. You'd think that, okay, if there's no roam on the middle floor, the top floor, and even Sexy Cake's mute jammer play aside, which DZ paradoxically, despite wasting a minute 40 seconds clearing out that position, end up winning that round. But if there are no obstacles presented in their way, as was the case in round one, you're thinking, okay, surely they win that, right? I mean, that's the narrative we always talk about. Don't let DZ get set up. Don't let DZ get set up. Back when Canadian was IGLing SSG, don't let SSG get set up, or else you're going to lose the round. So if there's no realm, no forward presence, it's a full turtle. DZ should literally, logically, be able to get exactly what they want set up because there's no obstacles in their way. There's nothing disrupting that setup from happening. And yet, it happened. And yet you still had the player AK with no deployable shield, able to keep the man advantage alive in blue after sacrificing the OMI, cutting down Bolo and Panda, clearing out that position. They can then focus on the front side and stop the clear. I mean, really, to be fair, DZ were able to get set up. It's that blue position that was ultimately the undoing for that first attack. That was the big strong point for Los's turtle setup when it was successful. So if DZ are able to pay that attention a bit more mind, maybe with a guy lurking down blue, try to pressure that position, that might be one change small enough to make a big difference in DZ's one attempt at attack.
Man, it's always so difficult when it boils down to this, Carter. For both squads respectively, right? I mean, this game has gone on for quite some time, even for one map. You know, we've been locked in heated combat for over 40 minutes, and now it comes down to it comes down to what could be one round, right? If something goes proper for Darkzero, then all that extra legwork from Los throughout this game, it's all been for naught. It's been for one measly point. This Brazilian squad most definitely does not want that, as they're trying to take things over inside of North America. They're not just trying to take part. Oh, we'll see what they potentially have on the docket for us for round 14. But I mean, really, it's anybody's game. We've seen both of these, respective squads take it to each other throughout this game thus far with different pressure points. So I'm excited to see what both of them bring to the table in this next round.
It has still been, generally speaking, though, a defender-sided matchup. It has been, 4-2 halves for both teams. So, obviously, theoretically speaking, it should be, Darkzero able to get theirs, Los have a good chance to get theirs, all the stuff we normally say. For this Church Arsenal defense in particular, it's ultimately dependent on the success DZ have on that flood, as it has been, honestly, for all of these teams. If Los can get the kills they need, if DZ can get the kills they need, both are usually existing with only 30-20 seconds on the clock, so are they able to win those fights in the late round? Whereas Los have just been doing that a bit more, and I think that's, honestly, Sam, that's kind of a fitting pattern to happen in this particular case, where it's one round, potentially deciding who wins, who loses. Two teams are taking the entire round to set up, and it's ultimately coming down to who can hit shots in the big key moments that are defining the final 20 seconds, 15, 10 seconds of a given round. And I think Los can do it, whether it's on Church Arsenal or Gym Bet or any of these sites. What they have proven in the NAL so far is they are incredibly mechanically gifted, and even if it's just down to blind luck, a 50-50 coming up their way, they are still good enough to get that coin. They are still good enough to win that fight, and that's the biggest threat DZ still have to worry about, is that Los aren't some strategic masterminds. They aren't making these insanely intelligent decisions. They're playing it well enough. They're playing all right. They just have shooters. They can hit their shots, and that's a scary opponent to face, especially when their back is against the wall.
Yeah, when you start to tilt the scales into your favor, especially when it comes to those 50-50 gunfights, even if it's something as little as, 3-5%, whatever it is, that is a huge boon for you in certain moments, in certain scenarios. But, I mean, for Darkzero, we know that they are more than capable to strike the iron while it's hot as well. And a lot of these players so mechanically gifted in their own right. So it's really just down to any given Sunday between these two teams. Really, we could have the full run of rounds. It could all end right here. And either squad that wins, honestly, in my mind, I think that they've deserved it. Both of these teams exploiting the other in very precarious ways. I really like what we saw out of Los in this game so far, especially with some of the things that we saw on their offensive perspective, able to battle up against the DZ stronghold in a very serious way. I especially liked that initial round that we saw where Sexy Cake worked the Deimos in, and they were immediately able to make Canadian a moot point, downstairs, just quickly using that death tracker and being able to take him out in church. So stuff like that we could see end up getting worked in, but definitely been very happy with what we've seen out of Low so far.
I will say that is one thing that it's kind of, I don't know if I'd call it maybe it is a guilty pleasure because like there's a level of hating involved in what I'm about to say, but I do enjoy watching Deimos be used against some of the solo roamers inside of the scene. Canadian's one of them. Palu, another big one in Brazil, where it's like, oh, you really enjoy just like sitting in the basement? And to be fair, like maybe hitting a great flank, maybe providing intel and calls. Well, we're gonna punish you pretty heavily for that, especially if we don't want to bring Jackal on the board and want to use like one of the best guns on the attack right now in that revolver. It's very entertaining to watch that kind of fight and that play style be punished. Not because I think it's a fault of Canadian or it's a fault of Palu, but it's just something that is. You look at a solo roam in the basement, you're like, oh, this is like ripe for a pinch. Why aren't they taking advantage of this? Why aren't they pushing it? And now it's like, oh, one tracker, all right, everyone in the lobby is flooding your position. So honestly, if we see another Deimos in overtime, I'd be happy. But I will say, I did like how Sexy Cake used it as well. I wanted to highlight it too. I wanted in on it.
I'll allow it. Just this once, though.
Gotta add more recoil to that revolver, though. That's my hot take.
Is that your hot take?
Well, okay.
Honestly,
it's like
what were you gonna say? You first.
I think it should have recoil when you're not hunting someone, but you can have reduced recoil when you are hunting someone. The way I think about it, like he's a hunter, right? If he's tracking someone, he's focused. So kind of like Finka's adrenal surge when it would reduce your recoil. Like, all right, you're just holding the revolver, it kicks like a mule. You're focused on your target, you got no recoil.
They need to change his utility to locked in. That's what they need to change it to.
No, I mean it makes sense. Like I'm not talking crazy here. Like when he hits that tracker, it's like that dude sitting up in the chair, like leaning forward. He gets dialed in. He gets locked in. Listen, I'm saying I've got the lore to back up my argument. Okay, I got human psychology backing up the points I'm making. I know what it's like to be dialed in. You want to know how? Because I've been casting Darkzero Los for 13 rounds now. Since Los went up 3-0, I know what it is like to be dialed into something you are focused on. Because as we get back in around 14, Sam, both these teams obviously need to be dialed in as well. Going back from that lengthy tech pause.
I don't think anybody's as dialed in as you are right now. You've been listening to Wolfpack, huh?
I have, like I had the bass beforehand, it was a whole thing.
I figured. I think that if Deimos had a lock-in song, it would actually just be Metro Boomin of some sort. Probably Ice Attack off the new thing with Future. Great song, by the way. But to get back onto subject here, Darkzero might be looking for an attack of their own. If it's icy, I don't really know. We'll just have to see. Do we even have any ice in this game? It doesn't really look like it. I could have the tub on defense, so I don't have any of that to bring to bear just yet. Legacy trying to put Darkzero on ice as he was looking to try and swing off that initially. Could have gotten an initial pick right off the single window panel for main stairs, but instead, Arias and the rest of the gang going to start to work their way back down low to work his way through secret stairs and into greener pastures.
Don't need to push very aggressively. So far, the only real inclination we've seen from Los to roam aggressively was when Sexy Cake had that one-off play, well, specifically on Church Arsenal. When they had that one-off play, with the mute jammer inside of construction. We have seen, some small changes as well. Their final defense, they did have the castle. They were roaming a little bit more, but it's never been this full-throated extension. We're contesting the top floor, the middle floor, everything. It has generally been a bit biased towards the bomb site itself for Los, and this round is pretty characteristic of it. Everybody back on the site. By the time we're a minute 20 seconds in, Darkzero now have the time to get the vertical control, have the time to go in for this execute, but what I'm really curious about, where's this Osa from Canadian going to land? Where is he going to use those talent shields and move his way in?
The knee-jerk reaction tells me, oh, you just place him bottom main stairs, just have a nice little cross angle there, right? But there's so many different ways to use these. I mean, he could also try and drop down the kitchen hatch and work his way in towards deeper armory and try and get this plant down. And honestly, Carter, the more that I look at this lineup and the fact that Canadian does have that case in his hand, the more that is what's telling of this scenario, right? I'll just see what they want to try and go for. Still lots of drone utility in order to try and set this up for themselves. And not only that, but still solid utility abound trying to assist with this. I especially like that Pambazoo hasn't been overexerted just yet, especially with these smokes and fires still well within their disposal. But now here it comes. Frag grenades in. It's going to clear up the AK position. And we stand on the precipice of what could be Darkzero's round.
It seems that's what the OS is for, maybe to drop him down blue, but maybe he's just rotating over the frag grenades. No, he's not dropping down blue to contest the AK's player with that case. Yup, down the kitchen hatch. He's got to be wary about those C4s, but one actually goes wide in a completely different position. Maybe the impact grenade will land, but the Wamai's all the way in blue. NJR's found Rise to start. Another player cut down on Los. It might be an unceremonious end as there are no explosives to stop this OSA defuse down the kitchen hatch. And on the retake, Sexy Cake and Farius, what are they to do? Try to push bottom main, but it's looking all impactless efforts. Darkzero in firm control of their final attacking round. Destined seemingly for an 8-6, as even in this 2v4, Darius is alone. Ursa downed inside of dirt. Doesn't even have the time to res. A very brutal game for Darkzero and a good showing for Los, but it costs everything for DZ to get their first win in the NAL.
I'd be decently happy about that. As you can see for Darkzero, not exactly over the moon about that one.
I would not be.
Expecting a little bit more out of themselves, but hey, business is business at the end of the day, and you're gonna take any of the points that are, won by you. I can't even say gifted because they worked so damn hard to take this away from Los. And yes, Los aren't capable of getting around inside of overtime, but man, did they make that a showing in between these two teams. Darkzero with a great strategy going into that last round two to kind of pull the wool over the eyes of Los, making things really hard for them to try and reassert themselves across that armory space. Not only is the plant successful, this is a successful round as a whole for DZ to win at 8-6.
And with that game, Los have solidified themselves as a threat. You can't not take this team seriously now. Even with the mechanical skill alone that they brought, bringing one of the top 6 teams in the world to overtime on a very mainstay map in the pool is incredible stuff. But before we go to a break, Sam, I think what you said almost right at the end there is what I'm thinking, which is DZ are still not going to be happy. This is their first victory to be sure, but against a team that has just been formed in the past couple weeks, it took everything to get the W. That's something they're not going to be happy about. But it is still their first win, and to break all those implications down and more, we'll have the desk right after this.
Sometimes you win a game and you're really happy with what you accomplished. Sometimes you win a game and you're just happy to escape with your own skin. That is exactly what happened to Darkzero in this matchup against Los, an 8-6 overtime thriller that shouldn't have been a thriller. Let's just be clear. There were round after round possibilities for DZ to end this one earlier. A 3-round skid where Los were up and then they had to take a timeout and sort everything out. For Darkzero, are you proud of that win? They got the dub, granted, but it was a hard-fought victory to get there.
I wouldn't be proud.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
It was a little messy.
I wouldn't be proud.
It was a little messy.
It was a little messy. Obviously, you're happy to run away with some points, especially if it gets all the way to overtime. You don't want to lose it on out. But I think this is a tale of us being more impressed with Los than it is being impressed with Darkzero. Darkzero is playing way below capacity that we've seen them being able to play.
We had our moments where it did feel like there were some major turning points, right? It was Los. First 3 rounds, we were like, eyes wide, what is happening right now? Round 4 felt like a bit of a return to form for DZ, right? They finally kind of found their stride. They started to get around some of the obstacles that Los were putting in their way.
I wasn't too worried as a DZ viewer just because it is clubhouse defense, and it looked like Los came to play. They came very prepared, especially Sexy Cake. He was phenomenal all defensive side. They were not letting DZ push them out of these hard positions on defense. But when the tides turned and Darkzero was on the defense, they were just rock solid. They were very slow. They were forcing Los to go for these executes, and the executes were not going in Los' favor just because they are such a newer team. DZ knew exactly what they needed to capitalize on, and when you look at DZ, it's always a slow burn game. So I expected them to right the wrongs at a certain point.
We obviously would have loved to see a bit of a cleaner game from DZ. They get it done in the end. It takes a Bolo 1v1, a Troy 1v2. There are plenty of hero plays all across the board for DZ. But what's the biggest takeaway from this game if you're Los? Because getting to overtime against DZ would have been great if DZ weren't obviously still trying to shake off the rust from SI.
Right, not knowing a lot about this team, it's hard to tell if what we saw from Los was their strategy as a team in general, or if they were doing specific things designed to throw DZ off. In my mind, I'm thinking of those first 3 defensive rounds, especially when they were extending to the CCTV and cache side on those gym and bedroom defenses. It seemed like DZ was walking right into the trap that Los had laid for them. Canadian with the Monty was walking top red, and Los were hanging out, establishing a crossfire, and that was that special round where Sexy Cake really went off. I think he got a quad at the end of that one. But a perfect example of how Los was exploiting DZ's need to be methodical and to cover all of their bases. They really put a lot of different obstacles in their way, and that worked really well.
Yeah, but this game wouldn't have been nearly as close had it not been for that 3-round skid to start. But how do they recover? How do they get themselves out of that hole and come back to win this thing? A couple of very key players on DZ enabled them to get to that point. There's not one person that we can point to that helped dig them out of that situation. It was a whole cluster of guys on this roster.
It was a real team effort, and they knew that if they just got to the defensive side of things, that they would be able to equalize, make Los have to actually find them on picks and not have to force them out. I think Darkzero really isn't feeling too confident in the way that they want to take their gunfights. They aren't looking as strong as they normally have, so they really want to force Los to make those mistakes.
With Pambazoo and NJR as well, you could easily have thrown Canadian or Bolo into this spot.
Sure.
The reason I want to highlight both of these guys is that they have been kind of more improved, right? Both Pamba and NJR have had not the perfect stage so far, especially NJR, as I talked so passionately about yesterday. But Bolo also had his moments, right? Where, yes, rough start on defense, he found his stride. And Troy, I mean, he had some clutch moments. There was he's trapped in dirt and he's got to somehow retake the site in a 1v2. That one of several moments where it felt like he was the reason or a major factor they won a given round.
Yeah, let's roll that clip again, because there were a lot of moments in this game where DZ had us clenching backstage, holding our breath, hoping they'd be able to pull something off. And this 1v2 from Troy right at the end, Rise goes in pursuit. Troy hangs back, shotgun v shotgun, and the Mossberg just wins out in a trade. It can't get closer than that.
Canadian played it perfectly. He played the positioning. He knew that the one player was going to be on the hatch. He got the perfect pre-fire, and then he played time to his advantage. He knew that he wouldn't be able to go for the plant, and then the trade just went in his favor. Obviously, defense win those trades whenever they come out. So right place, right time. The experience led him through.
And the great shot that he hit on the hatch player. I mean, as strategic as that was, had he not hit that bullet with the SMG-11, it is a very different ball game.
When you're firing upward into a hatch from dirt, one of the harder shots to hit, because you don't know what's happening on the cart on that side of the hatch. So maybe sometimes you just send a prayer up there, hope you actually hit a headshot. Troy gets it done, and without that clutch, overtime does not inevitably happen. We also haven't had a chance to talk to the guys on DZ yet, because up till now, it's taken a hot second. So we got Bolo on the line to walk us through everything. Dude, obviously would have loved to have had a chance to talk to you earlier on, but it's good to finally talk to you now. Walk me through what these last 2 weeks have looked like for DZ since you guys got back from Brazil.
I mean, it's been a little bit rough. Well, first of all, what's up, boys?
What's up, man?
Been a little bit rough start, but you know, it's nothing like coming back from Brazil, the biggest event the Siege scene has to offer, and coming back to online. So I think it's just rust. Yeah, it was a little bit dirtier and scrappier than we wanted to for today, but you know, we're on the board. We got to win. That's all that matters.
It has been a change from online to LAN, but now that you guys have had a little bit of a slower start, is that increasing your guys' workload going into week 3? Are there anything you guys are expecting to change over the weekend?
I mean, I think we've already kind of narrowed down some of our faults on the previous play days, and I mean, now we actually have some good things to build off of and kind of just carry it on and hopefully get more points and make it into playoffs. So we're working on it. We've found some problems, and you know, you got to find the problems to fix them, right? So.
Right.
Well, let's stay here for just a second. Can you talk to me a little bit more about this match in particular? We're kind of theorizing of, right, Los is an unknown for us. You guys are more of a known quantity. Was this Los surprising you? Was this them just playing a better game than you expected? Or would you describe this more as kind of beating yourselves in a way towards the end?
I mean, yeah, we didn't really know what to expect. It's just kind of like a mixture of players, honestly. Like, I just kind of showed up, just ready to play you know, a new team, right? I didn't really have any expectations going into it. So yeah, I mean, they're a good team. They got, you know, 6 rounds on us, so nothing to really kind of complain about on the performance end. But I mean, yeah, just they played well. But I think another thing is just it was more on us. It should have been a regulation one.
If you don't mind sharing some insight, when you take that timeout when you're down 3-0 and you're looking for some way to fight back into this game, was the timeout conversation at all technical, like you knew exactly what to fix, or was it just, guys, get your heads in the game, it's all a mental thing? What was said in that timeout? If you can actually say. If you can say something where Mint doesn't get mad at you, obviously.
I don't even remember exactly what happened. What round did the timeout happen?
Right after round 3. Right after round 3.
Oh, I think it was just like, yo, boys, stop trolling. Let's, you know, focus on. I think it was more about syncing plays. It was more about like actually, you know, not jumping the gun, not just running the strat. It was more about like, all right, we have a target in front of us. Let's all, you know, like have a 3-man objective on clearing this target and then move on. You know, an objectively based mission, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like things were a little bit more synced as the game went on. One last question before we let you go. Any possibility for the Jinxie 1v1 round 3 in the future?
I mean, you never know what can happen. You know, hopefully,
Are we tied at 1 right now? Is it 1?
We're tied at 1 currently. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, tied at one. Hopefully, you know, you never know what can happen. Maybe next SI or something, big stage, big stuff.
Sounds good,
Big
man. We'll
ticket.
certainly keep an eye on Twitter, dude. Jason, again, congratulations on the win. Hopefully things go better for you next week. Take care, bro.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bo.
All right, for Darkzero, that's it. Like he said, they're on the board. It's a total of 3 points because that's 2 overtime games, 1 loss yesterday, 1 win today. It's better than starting off the week with nothing. So if you're gonna rebuild and shake off the rust, at least it's happening slowly, if not at all, right?
I mean, every point matters. He said it, we just want to get enough points to make it to playoffs, and obviously that's where everything is going to snowball down to. So as long as they're ready game day by then and they're getting a few points here and there, you can't be upset. You can't be upset if you're Darkzero.
But everybody else in this league, you know, all the other teams are looking at this match, and regardless of if they're going to be scared of Los or not, they're thrilled that DZ does not walk away with the full points here.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And again, sneaking into playoffs, you don't have to get the most points in playoffs. You could just got to get 6, top 6. You could have a really small amount of points. It's all compared to how the rest of the league stacks up. For Darkzero, they finally got it done today, just a couple weeks later than they would have liked. For Wildcard and Beast Coast, they have yet to get any points, and they are Game 4 coming up after the break.